with Carter and family. Welcome back to today, guys, and welcome to 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. So, it's come to my attention that I need to do an updated version of how I found out I was pregnant. And don't mind my look. My hair's still wet from yesterday when I took a shower. And these are stress pimples, and I was all stressed this whole week about Carter's party tomorrow, so. I don't remember exactly what day I found out or whatever, to be honest with you. Like, I couldn't even remember that when I was pregnant, so sorry just now. But, Carter's in the background, so don't mind him. But I had conceived in June, which I figured that out way after I was pregnant, or way after I found out and everything, because if you put it to what my due date was March 18th, and I found out in July, so of 2017 I found out, and I was 6 weeks when I found out. I had a gynecologist appointment, so I go to the gynecologist, and and I was on the birth control patch, and you change it every week, which mine did not want to stay on, or whatever, and so I would just put it back on not knowing, and everything, so, anyways, and I was 19 when I found out, and either way, because Carter was early, but either way, because my birthday's in December, and my due date was March 18th, I had him in January, so I either way would have him at 20, so I had him at 20, so I'm not a teen parent, so, anyways, so I was, going to the gynecologist because I had to get a checkup, because, you know, I had to, get my birth control changed, and it was time for a yearly gynecologist appointment, and, I had just had that feeling the day before. It was like, what if I'm pregnant? Like, I always thought that every time I went to the gynecologist, but, yeah, and don't mind Steven, he just woke up from a nap, so I was like, what if I'm pregnant? And I was like, holy crap, I could be pregnant. And, like, the thing was, is I hadn't gotten my period, and I usually get my period either in the first week of the month or the middle of the month. Hold on, guys. Sorry, guys. Steven was looking for something to eat, and I had made some eggs, so I had given him the rest of them. And sorry, Carter started crying because he don't like to be left alone. You're okay, I'm right here. So, I usually get it in the middle of the first or second week of the month, and I hadn't gotten my period yet, and I was shocked. I was like, this is not right. What's going on? And so I was just freaking out, like, that I didn't get my period and everything like that. And for weeks ahead of that, before finding that out, like for weeks, I was so nauseous. Like I was so nauseous that I just felt like I wanted to throw up. Everything that I had food aversions. Like I would not want to eat certain foods. Like they would just even smelling them would make me want to puke. It was crazy. And I also was having very bad stomach pain, like cramping constantly. And I usually see, that's the thing now, it's like, am I pregnant right before I get my period? Because I get the same feeling before I get my period. So I just thought maybe my period's late, whatever. No, it wasn't late. And so I was like, oh my god. And then I was so hungry all the time. And then every time I eat, I feel nauseous right after. And then, and this was another thing. We just moved into our apartment, and I was sleeping every day for like 4 or 5 hours. And I was like, that's not normal, because I never used to do that, except when I go to sleep. So at night. So I was like, why am I napping from 7 o'clock at night to like 10 o'clock at night? Like, what the hell? So those are some reasons of what I figured. So I go to the gynecologist, and you know how they have to do the urine test, so they do the urine test, and they were like, okay, so we'll be back, and they didn't come back in for like 10-15 minutes, and I'm sitting here like, what's going on? I was like, oh no, I'm going to be pregnant, and my grandma was so against it, but I was 19, and she was just like, so they come back in, and I finally was like, I can't do this anymore. So I opened the door, and I'm like, can I come? I'm like, what's taking so long? And my grandma's like, don't even ask. Like, I'm not doing this right now. You're done, and blah, 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 because she was so against it. If you guys don't know, she was against it for, like, 2.5 months, and then she finally got over it and okay with it. And so she was pissed, and they were like, well, we need to send you to go get an ultrasound. So I had found out I was pregnant. I was shocked. I was scared. I didn't know what to think. So we're like, oh, I gotta send you to go get an ultrasound. So we go to the place. The gynecologist place has another place down the, like, road from where it's at, and this was like 10 minutes from my old apartment. So we go to the place, and we had to wait to get an ultrasound. My grandma was like, I didn't want to talk to me. She was ignoring me. She actually went outside, and she was like, I'm gonna sit in the car. I'm so done. And so she goes and sits in the car. I go get the ultrasound, and they put the probe in your crotch. They look, and they're like, oh, you're 6 weeks pregnant. And I was like, 6 weeks? And I didn't know for 6 weeks? Come on. So then they're like, yeah, and then they're like, you want to keep it or you want to abort it? And I was like, really? I want to keep it. I'm not aborting my baby. I'm against aborting. So then my grandma comes back in, and we're waiting for the results and the paperwork. And she comes back in, and she's like, well, I need to go out to the car and call Steven's dad. And I'm like, how old are we? We don't need you to do this. Like, Steven's 20 years old. I'm 19, gonna be 20. Like, what the hell? We're not kids. We're not teenagers. So she goes and calls his dad, and then I go home, and I tell Steven, and then a couple days later, I started having blood scares, where, like, it was a sign of a miscarriage. Like, I had a lot of bleeding. So I went into the hospital. They did an ultrasound, and everything was fine. And then I had the bleeding again a couple weeks later. So I go back in, or a week later, and I go back in, and I get another ultrasound, and everything is fine. So it was implantation bleeding. So that's when I said I had some pregnancy scares. I had bleeding, and I thought I was having a miscarriage, and I cried and cried and cried. Sorry. And then I had all the, and then from there, like, I go on my day, I go get my ultrasound. So when I got my first ultrasound, besides the one when I found out I was pregnant, they tell me when I get there, they're like, oh, you had a miscarriage, we can't see you. And I was like, I did not have a miscarriage. I was just told that I'm still pregnant. How did I have a miscarriage? So they look and they call, and I didn't. So I got to go see. We heard the baby's heartbeat at 6 weeks and like 7 days, I think. Oh my God, it was a blessing. And then a week after I found out I was pregnant, I started having, or 2 weeks, I think. So like 8 weeks, I started getting nauseous, like actually throwing up. And when I say throw up, I threw up everything I ate. No matter what it was, I threw up. And I was always feeling sick. And I had migraines my whole pregnancy. Every day I had a migraine. So, and then we did a lot of walking. So that was like a type of exercising I did, because at the time we didn't have a car. So we were doing a lot of walking and going to the buses. And we had a hospital like 5 minutes from our house, and I used to walk there all the time when I had to, like, but it wasn't the hospital that my insurance pays for, if that makes sense. What my insurance does, but it's not the one that my insurance wants me to go to. And so I would go there, and I went there a couple of times for scares, and everything was fine because I couldn't feel the baby move. And one time I went there because, like, I was starting to bleed again, but I had this, like, I actually had cut myself inside of my hoo-ha. I don't know how, but I guess when I was wiping, I like, cut it. So that was what happened, and I was just so thankful that everything was okay. And then so everything was fine, and then around Thanksgiving last year, I started having this pain in my side. And I went into the hospital, to the one by the house, 5 minutes I walked there. And, well, actually, my dad actually had his car then, so my dad took us. And I had to end up staying there for a couple of days. I got told that I was having a chances of preterm labor. But it wasn't preterm labor. I wasn't having preterm labor yet. That I was going to have a chances of having a preterm baby, which I did. But, let me explain. I was 24 weeks at the time. They told me I needed a cerclage to, like, stitch me up. Let me just tell you, I will never go back to it's called UNMH. I will never fucking go back there. Ever. Excuse my mouth. They told me I'm 1 centimeter dilated. When I go into my OBG, she told me I was 0 centimeters dilated. Like, are they dumb or something? And then also the ultrasound place where my OBG is, which is at the hospital that I delivered Carter at, told me the same thing. I'm 0 centimeters dilated. So, but I was going to get it. They wanted me to get a cerclage, but I chose not to. And the cerclage, what it does is it closes up your cervix, because my cervix was shortening. It was shortening, basically, that's how Carter came. It shortened. But they wanted me to have a surgery to get, and I had all these medications. That day I went in, oh my god, it was so bad. I could not walk. I could not do anything, guys. And, I know I posted videos of me in the hospital, so if you haven't seen those, go watch them. They're cray-cray. But, I couldn't walk or anything. I was so out of it. And, so they wanted me to get a cerclage. And I told them, I'm not getting a cerclage. I'm not getting a cerclage. Like, no. I'm not getting a cerclage. And they were like, well, you need a cerclage. And I'm like, no. Because the chances, they could pop your water. There's a chance of popping your water. With me not getting a cerclage, Carter lasted 6 more weeks in my tummy. That's really good. So then 2 weeks go by, and then I go to my OBG, or not my OBG, and she wants me to go get an ultrasound because she wants me to be admitted to the hospital again. So I go, and then I gotta get admitted. So I was admitted for I was admitted for 3 weeks, and the baby was so healthy, so good. But then I had learned way before that, I had probably learned this at 15 weeks, that Carter was breached. So either way, I would have to have a C-section. I finally had told him, I want to go home. Nothing's happening. No baby's coming. Like, can I go home? But in that mist, I had scares of him coming early, because I was having contractions that I was not feeling at all. I was not feeling the contractions at all whatsoever. So then I go, they're like, okay, we're going to do this test. And this test predicts if you're going to have your baby, if your baby could come in the next 2 weeks or not. And if it does, you have to stay in the hospital. So it came back positive. So let me just tell you this. I told them, I'm not staying here. I said, I live 15 minutes from here. I will get here in time for the baby to come. Like, come on. So they let me go home. I was home for 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, at 30 weeks, I go into labor. And Carter was born via C-section. And let me just tell you, I didn't go into labor for 2 days, so I went back into readmitted to the hospital. They wanted to keep me pregnant till 34 weeks. They gave me this medicine and everything, and they did this swab up my butt that hurt like shit. Excuse my language. And so Steven? And so they wanted me to, and so I stayed there because my water I was having amniotic leakage, fluid leakage. So I stayed there, and then on the 9th of January, I went in on the 7th. So the 9th of January, which was a Tuesday, I had woken up, and I had told everyone, I know, I had slept all day till 6. And I've made this in my labor and delivery videos. If you haven't watched this, go watch this, but I'm just going to recap you guys. I told them, I know something's wrong. I told Steven and everyone, I'm about to go into labor. Nobody believed me. What the hell, Carter? And then, my labor was 2 hours long. I started having back pain. There you go. I had contractions, and there you go. Carter was born. So that's my labor and delivery story. So hope you enjoy. Or not my labor and delivery story. That's how I found out I was pregnant. So yeah, sorry I got it confused, you guys. All right, bye.